Hello there, good morning and welcome on this Monday morning to the program. Yes, another week of, I guess a lot of you have told me your favourite program, and if you haven't told me that, I really don't want to hear. I'm only joking. We're here to brighten up your Monday morning, as I said, and before I tell you what's on today's program, I don't know what you do at home while you're watching the program. I'm sure you rush around and do all sorts of things, or perhaps you take that half an hour and sit down with a cuppa and a piece of cake or whatever. I happen to know that in the Channel 6 tea room round about now, there are plenty of people feeding their faces with cream sponge, and we want some, but we're doing it because Lynn from our sales department is celebrating her 21st, and she's going to be really embarrassed now, but it's a bit too late, I guess. But Lynn, we wish you all the best for your 21st and many happy returns of the day. And to anyone out there watching this morning who's celebrating a birthday, not only today but this week, well, many happy returns to you as well. Later on the program we tell you about the latest in books, and we also talk about health and beauty with Christine Tully. But firstly, in recent weeks on the program, we've illustrated how diverse the University of the Third Age, the courses that are available through that university are. Only on Friday last, Jock Tomlinson did this very successfully with tips about drawing and painting. Well, we're still in the field of art today. This time we discuss the world of floral art with University of the Third Age tutor Dorothy Garner. Dorothy, welcome along to the program.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks for sparing us the time this morning. A lot of people tell me I'm busy. I think you win hands down. I've had problems catching up with you, but I'm glad you could make it this morning. I asked Jock Tomlinson on Friday if people needed to be artistically gifted to paint or draw. And I guess that's a good question to ask you. Do you think you need to be artistically inclined to arrange flowers?
No, I don't really think so, Jan, but I think you should like flowers or like decorating your environment.
I'm glad that you said that. We've tried to do our best here on the morning show set.
You've done very well.
But well, I can't take the credit for that. Do you think in your courses, what do you include? Do you go through the whole gamut of I guess, from conditioning flowers right through to arranging them?
Yes, including the wiring of them. Anything that you're going to need to arrange flowers.
Well, we'll get into the nitty-gritty in a minute. What about the students who will participate in the courses? Do they need to bring along anything in particular?
A pair of side cutters would be the main thing. Secateurs after that, but side cutters are much better because they can cut the wires that we might use without messing secateurs you don't want blunted. So side cutters are really the best. Yes,
particularly when you're talking about wiring too.
Yes.
And I guess with the conditioning, and we need to move along to that, conditioning or preparing flowers, what do people need to know about that? Because it can vary, can't it?
Yes, it can. The main one I use is the sugar and water. Flowers really need to be in a mixture of sugar and water for 4 hours before you use them. That almost doubles their life in the vase. If they're cut early in the morning or late in the evening when the sun is not on them, try to get them up to their heads in water or the mixture of sugar and water, and just let them soak there for 4 hours, and then they will last a good while.
So ideally, if you're going to be arranging flowers, say tomorrow, you need tonight to cut those flowers and pop them in the water with the sugar in them, and then you're ready to go tomorrow.
That's right.
Beautiful. We just thought we'd help people out. And I guess the weather is a little bit kinder to flowers these days. With the hot weather, it must have been difficult for you arranging flowers over the summer.
Very difficult, yes. We had a few weddings through the summertime, and that was very traumatic, trying to keep those flowers nice and fresh for the actual wedding hour.
I'm glad that you succeeded, and I guess this is where your expertise comes in. And I just wondered, you brought along some flowers this morning. Now, what are the flowers that are in vogue? I mean, I noticed that you brought dahlias along, so they're the ones you'll be working with?
No, well, actually carnations at the moment. Dahlias are beautiful at the moment, except for the rain that we had last night. I have some carnations here that I was going to wire.
Well, what about the dahlias? Do they need particular care, say, for conditioning them before?
Well, they are a little
arrange?
bit different to most of the flowers. If they're dipped in hot water first, at one time you burnt the ends of them, but I think that is a little bit dangerous to do, so I prefer just to dip the ends in a little bit of hot water
I'm glad to hear that. Yes, burning them sounds a little bit dangerous. We could get into into all sorts of stuff. Dorothy, what about wiring flowers? Now, when we were talking before we came to air this morning, you said, "Look, as long as I can sit with a flower and a piece of wire, I'll feel pretty relaxed."
Keep my hands occupied with. Yes.
What are the important points there? I guess it can vary depending on what flowers you use.
Well, it depends on what flower you are using. The carnation. Are they looking at the
yes,
carnation?
That's fine.
Yes.
Yes.
I can even see myself over there. Okay, well with the carnation, that's a very easy one to wire because you have this long section here to put the wire through. If we get the wire and just put it through, bend it down, wind your wire around, and you have a wired carnation.
Well, that's pretty
then
simple.
Tape over. It is. It's not as hard or difficult as people think it is. Possibly the most difficult one is the orchid, because the orchid costs so much anyway to buy in the first place.
I noticed that
and you have to do it very gently so as not to break the orchid.
Sorry, I noticed that you're covering that wire with green tape, so it really camouflages it, so you've really got to go out and have a good look before you realise.
That's right, and the odd leaf popped in here and there can camouflage the tape and the wire so that it really just looks like the stem of a flower when you're finished.
Dorothy, I wondered, a lot of people fall into the category, they really worry if they're presented with a bunch of flowers, they go over and they plonk them in a vase and think, oh, it never looks any good. Can you help people out with the courses through the University of the Third Age to, I guess, at least successfully arrange some flowers in a vase?
Yes, I think so. There are a few basic rules to follow. One is that the lighter coloured flowers go to the top. If you put the deep, heavy colours to the top, you end up top heavy. It always looks as though the vase is going to fall over. So you try to get your lighter colours to the top, working down to the heavier ones at the bottom. You want a shape to follow.
What about the vase that you use? Is that important too? Does that play a part?
Well, it does really. You can get these vases that are top heavy in themselves and you put the flowers in and then over goes the lot. So you really want something with a fairly heavy base on it.
And this is where things like Oasis and the little tricks of the trade that you can pass on will help out.
Yes, wire here and there. And
well, you're making me feel much better this morning. I'm sure I can go away now and have another try at flower arranging. There's some luck involved though, isn't there?
Yes, you can get an interesting shape in a stem that you cut, so like that. And that will give you the form of the arrangement that you're going to follow. But really, you can pull flowers around and move them to where you want them to go, and that's...
I think we'll have to try this wiring trick. It sounds like a nice sort of hint to make. Dorothy, for the moment, thanks for being here. As I said, thanks for giving your time up this morning, and we do wish you well with the floristry courses through the University of the Third Age. For you out there watching this morning, Dorothy Garner is the tutor on floristry through the University of the Third Age. For the moment, we'll take a quick break, and I'll be back in just a moment with all those health and beauty tips on The Morning Show.
Does this remind you of your wardrobe? There is an inexpensive solution. Barry Voges can design a built-in or walk-in robe to suit your needs. Call Barry now for a free measure and quote on 298359.
I'm standing in one of the best photo stores in Australia, and if you guessed Replacer Film, full marks, you're absolutely right. But why are Replacer Film the best?
I have been happy with the photos.
Well, the service is super fast and the quality's just superb.
Because I really like their 1 hour service and their efficiency is great.
Their 1 hour service is prompt and the quality and colour of the film is always very good.
Replacer Film. What you see is what you get, and what you see is the best.
You've heard about it. You've talked about it. Well, it's happened. Traffic Kids is here. It's grown-up styles down to kids' sizes in all the colours and styles they love to live in. So now, no matter how old they are, no matter who they are, you can get that individual look. Put a bounce in their step and a sparkle in their smile. Step out with Traffic Kids, Friar Street, Shepparton. Fun fashion for kids.
J&B present the greatest rock and roll mix ever.
Why do fools fall in love?
With 22 specially selected hits. Neil Sedaka.
Love, my calendar.
The Crystals.
Run, run, run,
Cut Barney Francis. The Big Bopper.
Chantilly lace.
The Duke of Earl himself, Gene Chandler. The greatest rock and roll mix ever. Miss this one and you'll miss the 50s.
Wednesday, we're rolling out the funnies.
Comeback balls on site.
With the right remedy for unstoppable laughs.
Sounds interesting.
Sounds just like sex to me.
The Comedy Company, 7:30 Wednesday on Channel 6.
Welcome back to the Monday edition of the Morning Show. I forgot to say right at the head of the program, for the Boschettis and the Rellies who are watching this morning, yes, we have got that footage, and it's to do with something that happened on Saturday. For the rest of you watching, it will be at the end of the program, right near the end, so do keep watching. Ageing is an inevitable part of life. However, we Australians like to give it a little bit of a helping hand, ignoring the effects the sun can and does have. One area of skin which is particularly vulnerable to this type of ageing is the neck, and Christine Tully, who presents our regular health and beauty segment, is here to discuss ways of overcoming this very big problem. Chris, welcome back to the program.
Good, thank you, Jan.
Interesting to talk about the neck area, and I just wondered, what can it suffer from? I mean, ageing is a loose term.
It is, Jan. There's probably 4 major categories we find. Sun damage, first of all, perhaps lack of lubrication, because we find most women tend to take the day cream to the jaw area, and it is important to extend it down on the neck and also on the décollage area, which is also sort of caused with sun damage. It can be touched around that area. Hot showers, another thing to watch, and also fragrance sort of applied at the base of the ear can quite often react against the sun, causing pigmentation problems. And an interesting one too, Jan, is posture. Sit up nice and straight.
Yeah, yes, you're making me feel I'm going to be terribly well. Well, my posture will be excellent from now on.
And there are several exercises you can do to help, perhaps sort of gritting on the teeth and sort of causing the muscles here to firm up around that area. So keep that in mind, particularly when you're sitting down. Do that several times a day, and you'll find that will help that neck area.
What about from a beauty point of view? I guess if there's dryness, if you haven't really, quite often we forget if we're putting moisturiser or whatever, the neck area does get left out. What's your advice there?
Yes, it does, Jan, and we find particularly the back of the neck area, and that's one area with women wearing their hair shorter these days, find that you do get that exposure from sun. So if you can just run through a quick cleanse, a little bit of neck cream and sunblock, it's really all it needs.
Right, yes. Well, I'm still concentrating on my posture here. I just wonder, are there any actual, I guess it's like any other part of the body, muscles and that sort of thing. Can you do exercises to really firm it up or make it look better?
Yes, you can, Jan. What I mentioned before, just about gritting the teeth, perhaps forcing the tongue against the bottom of the teeth. You can feel that sort of working on all of these muscles, extending down onto the décollage as well. Just sort of gentle movements of the head. Once again, you can feel that area being exercised. So it's good to just have a small routine of that.
I have this vision at the moment of all these people sitting at home, and perhaps when I go around in the car next, I'm going to see all these people gritting their teeth, and it won't be through tension. I just wondered too, for people who maybe feel it's a little bit too late for them, could they draw attention away or maybe camouflage the neck area a little bit?
Yes, we can, Jan, particularly with winter coming up. Scarves are really great to use on the neck area, and a lot of women have always been afraid of wearing scarves if they're concerned their neck's a little bit on the short side. But if they keep the scarf nice and loose around that area, they're still taking the emphasis away from the neck, and it's not creating the illusion of a short neck, which a lot of women are concerned about.
I've been dying to ask you, we've got 2 or 3 visual things this morning, and I thought we'd start off with the trends in winter makeup, and I guess adding colour and this sort of thing. We've got a butte diagram this morning of the eye area, which I feel really emphasises the fact that eyes are so important, aren't they?
Yes, they are. The eyes really talk for our face, and it really is important. With this diagram we have, Jan, winter makeup's really great this year. There's not a lot of emphasis on colour. Almost every colour will suit, but you can see by this diagram the dark and light contours, particularly around the eye area, is what we're concentrating on. So you can wear whatever colour suits your garment that you're wearing, and concentrate on creating depth and contour with your dark and light.
Moving along till we've got some more visuals, and it really illustrates not only your makeup but the idea of, I guess, really adding to your look. And she's a rather attractive lady.
Yes, she is, Jan. You can see that she's using the benefits of the contour around the eye area. Also, makeup's very soft, very subtle and natural, particularly the foundations and blush. The lips are still nice and bright, which I think we need to help carry our winter clothing as well.
I noticed that the eye makeup is really working the outside edge of the eye, and this really seems to suit most people's shape, the shape of eyes, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And on the inside, we're just generally concentrating on the lighter shades, which once again is creating the emphasis on the outer area. It's very flattering, actually, Jan, very feminine. It's a really lovely look.
We have another shot here just to show people too. This is a different, I guess the colours are different here, aren't they?
Yes, this is the plummy colours, which are also going to be very popular this winter. And once again, you can see the emphasis around the eye area, and yet it's a very natural, soft makeup.
My guest at the moment is Christine Tully, talking about not only the neck area and just what you should do to make sure, here, I must remember my posture again, and also winter makeup too. Chris, delighted to have you back on the program. I guess that we should invite you back in a couple of weeks' time, as we always do. Maybe we can talk about winter makeup, not only what's available, but also the regimen that we should go through, because sometimes we tend to forget that summer's gone. We need to really look after our skin too, don't we?
Yes, we do, Jan. No, that'd be great. I'd enjoy that.
Thank you. Oh, I'm glad you said yes. Thanks for being here, Chris. My guest has been Christine Tully. We'll take a quick break and I'll be back with the latest in books and Roger Cox. Do stay with us on The Morning Show.
Put on your bets and bets. Put on your bets and bets.
Good Lord. You can put on an English accent with these traditional brogues, an American accent with these classic deck shoes, or an Italian accent with these sharp slip-ons. But because they're made here in Australia by Rivers and Windsor Smith, at Bets and Bets, you can put on an English, American, or Italian accent without a Swiss bank account.
Put on your bets and bets.
When I was his age, people around here were still using water filters for pure, sweet-tasting water. High calcium Physical is made by applying the same idea to milk. It's called ultrafiltration. So if you're concerned about good taste, less fat, and getting enough calcium without powders or additives, the choice is natural.
Let's get physical.
Ultrafiltered Physical from Sandhurst Foods.
When it comes to renovating your little piece of paradise or touching up your dream home, talk to Magic Brush and get a little bit of magical know-how. At Magic Brush, there's a range of quality paints and bits and pieces to get the job done. If it's automotive, we've got you covered with a wide range of colours and tinting to match. Basically, if you've got something to paint, we've got the gear and know-how to create your piece of paradise. Magic Brush, the friendly team with the magical know-how.
Hello, kiddies. Welcome to playtime, and here's a thoroughly modern miss doing things that all young girls do. She's into neighbours, talking on the phone, and she only does her homework if the crayons are handy. But one thing's for certain, she's very keen on good grooming, and here she tries some of the products from the John Panton pharmacies. I may be old-fashioned, but I'd like to see a well-groomed young lady, and if she isn't Dolly Magazine's Cover Girl winner in the year 2000, I'll eat my hat. Who cares?
Well, welcome back to the morning show. I'm really conscious of that now. I'm sure you're sitting at home doing this. We'll all be doing that for the next few days and it'll make us even look better. We're turning our attention to books now, and the most common image of teenagers is that of rebels without a cause, fighting against adult control, seemingly rejecting the values of their parents. The world's longest continuing civilization is also its least known. For 4,000 years, China has been a secretive giant with a quarter of the Earth's population. What have China and teenagers got to do with one another? Well, apart from the fact that China's population must include a fair chunk of adolescents, these two topics are just part and parcel of our regular book review with, yes, Roger Cox. Roger, welcome back to the program. How's your posture?
Excellent, excellent. I'm being very careful.
Oh,
Jan.
no, look, don't be careful. Look, just... No, I don't know what to say. I think I'll just go straight on. Our first book, which is entitled Seen But Not Heard, Eye-Opening Insights into the Lives of Young Teenagers. The Australian Children's Television Foundation is part and parcel of this, and Don Edgar is the man in question. Do you think today's teenagers are different to their parents, and I guess their parents' parents?
I really don't think that they're all that different, apart perhaps from the fact that their environments have changed. Children today are brought up in a different fashion perhaps to what we were brought up, but really their attitudes don't change all that much.
I've been round to your place, and you and Lynn and your youngsters seem to have a pretty good rapport. I just wondered, does it worry you as a parent today that teenagers particularly question, for instance, your role as a parent, and they seem, with everything in their environment, to be encouraged to do this? Does that worry you?
No, that really doesn't worry me. Perhaps it worries me when it reaches the stage that an argument ensues. And that happens occasionally. Yes, children today are taught to perhaps question what's going on around them and the attitudes of those around them, and that happens in their schooling as well as in the home in a number of instances. But I don't think there's any harm in that in today's society, provided it's kept reasonably in check. I think the children also have to learn some self-restraint.
That's a very interesting point, and I just wondered, that's a big thing to say, just all in one sentence. But this book is rather interesting because they get a set of teenagers together, give them a certain situation, and then get them to comment on certain aspects of it. And they deal with things like having parties, for instance, at home, and whether the parents should be here or out or whatever. Did you learn anything new about all the sorts of things that kids thought?
Probably I didn't learn anything new, but the book perhaps serves to remind us of some of those situations that we've been in, and perhaps to think a little of how we might deal with those problems if they should arise again. The book itself is based on a television series which was produced by the Children's Television Workshop, and so the format of the book is a little similar to the television programs. It's almost as if one were reading a script. And that I found a little off-putting, but perhaps the importance of the material in the book will allow us to overcome that.
I think it's interesting. Cartoons and drawings seem to be the accepted way of getting things across to youngsters these days, and I'm just wondering when they're going to come up with something a little bit different. Do you feel that? Is it a little bit old hat?
Well, yes, I really didn't like that style of the book. I would perhaps have preferred even stills from the television program, because each of the situations was dramatised before the children discussed them in that program. I think that it would have been better to use something a little more sophisticated, because to my mind the book is directed more at the parents than it is to the children. For the parents to question and learn a little more about their kids.
But that's interesting. Perhaps some people have recognised the fact that it always seems to be the children who get lots of advice and help, and the poor old parents are left out on the limb a lot, don't you think?
Yes, indeed. It's very important for parents to have this sort of advice.
Well, do give a look at this one. It's called Seen But Not Heard, Eye-Opening Insights into the Lives of Young Teenagers. I think you'll find it rather interesting. And next book, you really got us travelling around this morning. It's The Contemporary Atlas of China. Why is China so fascinating?
Perhaps because it's always been a country of the unknown, and until recent times has never really opened its doors to outsiders. It's becoming a more popular tourist destination these days, and one often hears of people travelling to China. I think a number of local people have travelled, and always come back with fascinating stories of the contrasts and the beauty of the country.
I'm glad you mentioned the contrast, because the thing that really took me by surprise was, there's a picture of it. I mean, when you think of China, you don't think of deserts, do you?
No, indeed, and in fact in the northwest region, we see here a picture of irrigation lands bordering on the Gobi Desert, and that's incredible to see.
Then another, I guess, more traditional, our next shot is a more traditional picture. It's got a Japanese influence or almost there, and they're the limestone peaks of Guilin. I hope that's the right way of pronouncing it. Don't sack me, anyone out there. I sort of haven't practiced this, but it's a magnificent picture, and apparently this site has influenced and inspired artists and painters and poets for many centuries. You can see why.
Well, the beauty there is striking, isn't it? And a very romantic feel to it, so you can understand that influence.
Also in the atlas of China, and it's not just an atlas, but it's lots of information, rice growing and these sorts of things, the more traditional and I guess the easily recognisable aspects of China are there too.
Yeah, indeed. Well, there are a number of regions in China that produce large amounts of food, and one can see from that photograph the terraces of rice paddies, and this sort of thing is very necessary to a country which has such a high population.
And just to end off too with this book, there's some beautiful plant life of the rare species, but also they're rhododendrons, and of course I guess anybody knows what rhododendrons are, and they've been brought from China through to the Western world, but there are lots of beautiful unique flowers that you can have a look at in China too.
Apparently brought out in the 19th century by plant hunters, would you believe?
Well, you've been reading up, haven't you? Roger, unfortunately, don't hit me when I say this, but we have run out of time. We've got a couple of other books that we will let people know of next time you're on the program.
So, yeah.
But for the moment, thank you for being on the morning show.
Thanks, Jan.
And happy reading.
Thank you. A pleasure as always.
Thank you. We'll take a quick break and I'll be back in just a moment to sign off on the Monday edition of the morning show.